Hi there, Cosmo family. My name is Jaliel. I am here today to talk about the energies of the next week from December 1st to till December 7th. We are at the final month of this 2025. And this week we have as a principal event the full moon in Gemini in the degree 13 with this great immutable square with the cosmic cross that is created with the lunar nodes. Therefore, it is a week where we have this invitation to observe topics related to communication, both of attention to what others are saying as ways of communicating ourselves. And also for many people, it is about regulation of overcharge of thoughts to bring themselves more to earth and to listen to themselves at the time that they need to make decisions that are going to be a key for our path. And when I'm talking about key, for many people could be big decisions because the sun is in Sagittarius. It is about facing greater truths, but also could be a series of situations along the days that are proposing us to let go of an old form of operating in our reality and to do something different, of understanding that the correct thing that responds to the right thing that responds to the energy of Virgo, it is being coherent with our inner self, with our soul. But many times this is confused with perpetuating a structure of thought or habits that respond to what others are expecting, among other things that I explained in the video of the lunation. So the fact that we are experimenting this in squares, it is telling us that these choices are going to challenge us in some level. Other thing that I wanted to add, that is truly a transit of the next week, but is part of the configuration. In fact, I mentioned this. Mercury direct in Scorpio is in orb, is approaching the opposition with Uranus retrograde in Taurus. So this week, the next week, they're going to be very related with news or information that was hidden in the collective level, could be related with topics that we perceive as the dark side, as the shadow of humanity, of society, from fraud until other things, that are inviting to see how we are investing our time, resources, and energy in structures, to put them in structures that actually can respond to a transformation of our own and also collective, and to detach or making the process to let go of everything that sustains in an energetical or economical way systems that are corrupt. Being said that, let's begin with the first transit. December 2nd, Venus in Sagittarius perfects this sextile with Pluto in Aquarius. So this could be the desire with connecting with other people. Could be a group of community where we can share visions of purposes, or taking an initiative to expand our own purpose towards other people, whether this is sharing any kind of knowledge very related to Sagittarius, or the creation of a project that we enjoy, that we want to explore, to establish it in social media. Pluto in Aquarius is very, very related with that. And in other level, this could be a conversation with other person, but from a place of much honesty. Perhaps we are approaching uncomfortable topics, but there is a possibility to do that because this is a harmonic aspect. With objectivity, without fear of being authentic, and without over emotional over identifications, connecting with what has a purpose right now to approach in that relationship, whether this is a change, or I don't know, if we are talking about a society, it is about putting in practice an idea that perhaps is breaking with old paradigms of perception. Perhaps it's a revolutionary idea. Okay, on December 4th, we have the full moon in Gemini, and on December 5th, the sun in Sagittarius perfects the square with the lunar nodes, and Mars in Sagittarius makes a trine with Chiron retrograde in Aries. So the first aspect is the principle of the lunation. And I already talked about this at the beginning of this video and in a more extended way in the video of the full moon in Gemini. But the trine between Mars and Chiron, it is this good impulse to choose the path or the action that actually leads us to grow, even though we could feel, the fears or the insecurities. And I remind you that these tensions are proposing crossroads, at least internal. And as we are challenged in patterns that we have sustained until this point, for some people more and for some people less, there could be this sensation that we have the tendency to follow certain inertia, a way of continuing our process that is creating a limitation. And that is not going to feel okay because this is a phase to learn to surrender to what right now perhaps we cannot verify in a rational way in the matter, but we feel that is evolutionary. We have the verification after that, or choosing the path aligned with the inner truth and love beyond what ego desires, transcending the interpretation of love from a conditioned mental structure. I'm going to put an example. This doesn't apply for everyone, but let's suppose that there is a person in a relationship of dependency and the other person is asking for a help that doesn't need. So being able to choose the path that is aligned with oneself, even if it's not comfortable, even if we could feel a little bit guilty, that is the loving thing with oneself and with the other, because that is push the other person to assume their own responsibilities. So on December 6th and on December 7th, wait a minute in here. Yeah, there are people that are confused. Right. On December 6th and December 7th, Mercury in Scorpio perfects the trine with Jupiter retrograde in Cancer and with Saturn in Pisces. So this is the last grand trine of water that Mercury is going to do. And, after the retrogradation and everything that is being illuminated this week, it has to be enough clarity to make decisions that are actually aligned to our inner authority. And you are going to verify also that from doing that emerges this natural trust in what produces expansion. And situations are going to show that too. Things are going to flow in the houses where we have signs of water. As always, we are establishing those necessary boundaries, or we keep, giving a structure to the projects that actually offer this great nutrition to oneself or to other people, to ourselves. But if we don't have clear this thing about boundaries, it will be with Mars in Sagittarius in a square with Saturn in Pisces. This aspect, we are going to feel it the whole week. It is also part of the full moon. So we are going to face things that need to be adjusted, or where we need to develop maturity. For some people, it's assuming a new structure, perhaps, that is challenging in some level. Is pushing the person to expand himself or herself and to assume other responsibilities. But we have to be aware with this, because in the other polarity, this square, Mars in Sagittarius could be, I have the trust that I can do everything, all the activities, and we have to have this registration of our physical and energetical limits. Because we are not going to be able to assume certain kind of commitments after. So other aspect of shadow is to choose what right now brings the sensation of immediate satisfaction, or what we believe that is beneficial with quotation marks, without actually having in account the purpose, the higher purpose of the path in the long term. And later, facing with consequences, because this is a decision with lack of responsibility over oneself. Other perspective is to have an ideal of how we want to be the path, and that Saturn is showing, that there are things that we need to learn, to develop, to integrate, and basically that we have to be more humble, because the Sagittarian energy also in shadow is to believe that we know all about everything, or attaching ourselves to a vision of the path. I want the path to be this way. This is the real benefit. But if the wisdom of life is actually putting certain boundaries, or redirecting ourselves to do different things, or to go into another path, it is because the true benefit is in that. And that goes beyond our limited perception in the present. And the last thing that is very connected with this transit, I am just going to mention this because we will expand on the next week. But Mars, by the end of this week, is going to be in orb also of a square with Neptune. And Neptune on December 10th becomes direct in the degree 29 of Pisces. We are going to feel it this whole week because it is already stationary. And this speaks to us of dissolving fantasies, but also of connecting with our intuition to align ourselves with a dream. There are veils of illusion that are going to fall. This could be could represent disappointment, but that is what opens the way to connect with other possibilities and with what our soul truly wants and with what the soul truly came here to create in this plane. I am going to close this video here. Thank you, everyone. See you in the next one. Ciao, ciao.